Hi, very glad to see you on the channel. Before you start listening to the story, write in the comments whether you like the voice on the video. I was only gone 8 days. A last-minute accounting summit out west, corporate clients, conference rooms, stale coffee, and too many hotel bar conversations about tax brackets. Rachel hugged me goodbye at the door, like she always did, smiling with her hand on my chest. Text when you land, she said, which I did. She didn't reply for 6 hours, then sent a casual, sorry babe. Spin class ran long. Can't wait for you to come back. I didn't think much of it at the time. When I returned to our little house tucked just beyond the edge of downtown Lansing, everything looked the same, but only at a glance. There was nothing overt. No dishes in the sink. No misplaced laundry. But it was the scent that hit me first. The place didn't smell like home. Our house always had this subtle blend of lavender and laundry, her signature. But this time there was something new in the air, something faintly chemical, like a hotel hallway or that one overpriced candle she used to say gave her migraines. The bottle was still there on the windowsill, mostly full. She greeted me in leggings and a sports bra, hair tied up. Just finished a session, she said breathlessly, wiping her forehead with a towel. Jim's been running late shifts, extra clients since they let go of Sasha. I nodded, setting down my suitcase. Smells different in here. She laughed. I did a deep clean. Got a little bored. I didn't question it. I unpacked, showered, fell asleep next to her like I always did. The next few days passed normally enough. She left each evening around 7, said the gym was expanding into a trial nighttime class. I'd always known she was ambitious. She liked the independence, the hustle, the idea of building something from sweat. And maybe that was part of why I didn't question it at first. She came home each night around midnight, sometimes later, always tired but wired, like adrenaline was still buzzing in her bloodstream. Then Thursday came. I was doing laundry while she was in the shower, emptying her gym bag like I always did. Shoes, towel, spare shirt, then a purse I didn't recognize. Small, red, with a gold zipper. Not her usual style. And buried inside, tucked beneath a pack of gum and a loose hair tie, was a phone. Not her phone. A cheap, no-brand burner. I stared at it for a long moment, then pressed the power button. It lit up instantly. No password. 10 unread messages. The names weren't saved. Just numbers. One said, "Room 218 again. Same rate. Cash is ready. Bring that blue dress." Another, "You're something else. Can't stop thinking about Tuesday." My chest went cold. I closed the phone and placed it back where I found it. Rachel came downstairs 20 minutes later in a hoodie and socks, hair damp. "You want dinner?" she asked casually. "Already ate. Everything okay?" I nodded. "Just tired." She smiled and kissed me on the cheek. Early night for me. Big class tomorrow. I watched her climb the stairs, every step echoing like a countdown. That night, I stayed up late, laptop open, a fake email address burning on Sugar Baby's site I never imagined myself clicking into. And as I filled in the last field, location, my fingers hovered over the keys. Because I wasn't chasing a suspicion anymore. I was confirming a betrayal. The next few days, I pretended everything was normal. Woke up when she did. Made coffee while she showered. Sat at the kitchen table doing client invoices while she packed her gym bag with perfect precision. Water bottle, headphones, towel, keys. Every movement choreographed, nothing out of place. But something in her rhythm had changed. She smiled a little too much, hugged me like she owed it to me. And every night at 7 sharp, she'd kiss me goodbye and disappear. Spin session first. Then I'm helping reorganize some backroom storage. "We're adding a juice bar," she'd said. Could be a good step up for me. It sounded reasonable. But then again, so did everything. I waited until Sunday to check her bag again. She'd left it in the laundry room. As always, zipper half open like a dare. Inside was a wrap box, neatly tied with a gold ribbon, the kind you see in boutique shops that don't bother with price tags. No label, no note. I slid it out and peeled the paper back carefully, too carefully, and found a watch box underneath. Matte black, expensive brand. I opened it. It was a man's watch. Heavy, clean, silver face, brown leather band. Not cheap, not something you pick up on impulse. I held it in my hand for a long moment, then tucked it back into the box and rewrapped it exactly as it was. I should have been furious. I should have walked straight up to her and demanded answers. But I didn't, because rage wasn't useful. Not yet. I wasn't after an argument. I was after understanding. That afternoon, she went upstairs to nap after claiming she had a migraine. I took the box out again and carefully swapped the working watch inside with one of my old broken ones from the drawer. A different brand, similar size. Dead battery. Cracked face. The band didn't even match. I sealed it back up, slid it in her bag, and zipped it halfway shut, same as before. Then I waited. When she left that night, she kissed me just like she always did. Walked out without a second glance. Same soft goodbye. Same clean lie. I checked her drawer after she was gone. The red purse was still there. But the burner phone? Gone. I opened my laptop and logged into Sugar Baby's site. I'd created 3 nights earlier using a fake profile. I hadn't matched her yet, but I was getting close. I'd filtered users to my zip code, narrowed down the hours. Some profiles were fake. Others were obviously recycled. But one stood out. No photos, just a cropped image of legs crossed at a hotel bar with a bio that sounded too curated to be random. Former dancer turned wellness junkie. Discretion is the classiest form of respect. I don't chase, I attract. She listed her availability as evenings, weekends, by arrangement. Her location was a 10-minute drive from the Marriott where the messages had first pinged the burner. The profile name? Aya. Rachel's middle name was Elise. I didn't message her. Not yet. But I saved the profile. Took screenshots. Time-stamped them. The next day, while she was in the shower again, I checked the gym's public class schedule online. No spin sessions listed after 6 p.m. No juice bar announcements. The place closed at 9. That night, she came home smelling like perfume. Not her usual scent. Something stronger, older, with a musk that didn't belong to our house. Her cheeks were flushed. Her smile lazy. She slipped into pajamas and curled up on the couch like she'd just gotten back from a spa. How was the gym? I asked, I still on the TV. Quiet. I ran the floor by myself. Sasha's still out sick. You eat. Had a smoothie. I'll grab something later. Cool. She tucked her feet beneath her and didn't look at me. The next day, I checked her bag again. The gift box was gone. In its place was an empty gift bag with the same gold ribbon, slightly crushed at the corners. Like it had been handed off, opened fast, discarded. I took that as confirmation, but I still didn't say a word, because she had no idea I was watching her shadow. And soon, she wouldn't see the one she was casting. I waited until Wednesday to make my next move. Rachel left that night at her usual time, spinning the same tale about staying late to clean the lockers and rearrange some of the free weights. I nodded, gave her the same smile I'd been giving all week, and watched her drive off like she was heading toward purpose. But she was heading toward Marvin. I was sure of it now. What I didn't know, what I needed to know, was how far she was willing to go to keep pretending I wasn't watching. Her gym bag was on the floor of the laundry room again. I opened it with the same quiet precision I'd practiced before. Nothing new at first. Spare leggings, a folded towel that didn't smell like detergent, but like stale cologne, and then a small black pouch zipped tight and hidden between the fabric layers. I pulled it out and opened it slowly. Inside was another gift. A pair of silver cufflinks in a sleek velvet case. Engraved. Not with initials, something worse. The letters read, M.E. discreetly yours. My jaw tightened. I ran my thumb across the engraving, then closed the case and exhaled slowly. These weren't bought from a mall kiosk. This was custom, expensive, personal. Thought out. Planned. She had taken the time to design these, order them, wait for them, hide them. And now they were sitting in our laundry room, in a pouch tucked between damp gym clothes and lies. She had no idea I knew what they meant. That was the power I still held. So I didn't scream. I didn't text her. I didn't throw the case in her face and ask who M was. I just walked to the garage, opened my tool drawer, and found the smallest set of pliers I owned. Back inside, I took one cufflink out and squeezed until the backing cracked, just slightly, not enough to destroy it, just enough that it would fall off when worn. The second one, I etched with a razor blade, a subtle score across the finish, thin enough to look like damage from use. Then I placed them both back in the case, carefully, as if nothing had been touched. Slid the pouch back where I found it. but not before I added twist. In the bottom corner of the velvet case, I tucked in a strip of paper. Small, almost invisible. On it, I had written just one line. She said the same thing to me. No name, no number, just ink and implication. That night, Rachel returned at midnight. Again, she looked brighter, almost smug. Long night. I asked from the couch. Yeah, she said with a fake yawn. Tiring. We reorganized the whole back half of the gym. You get a hand off your gift. Her face didn't flinch. What gift? The one in your bag. She blinked. What were you doing in my bag? Laundry, I said calmly. You left it open. She smiled quickly. Too quickly. Right. Yeah. I dropped off a gift for one of the trainers. He's retiring. Just a little thank you. Cufflinks. She didn't blink this time. He collects them. Weird hobby. Hope he doesn't lose one, I said, rising from the couch. Why would he? I met her gaze. Sometimes things fall apart when they're worn too often. She didn't respond, just stared, then nodded like the conversation had ended. She didn't realize I'd already changed the locks on her version of reality. The next afternoon, I logged back into the Sugar site and scrolled through new posts. Ella had a new one. If I bring you something personal, wear it proudly. I only give gifts to those who earn them. The replies were nauseating. Hearts. Fire emojis. One man replied, Tuesday, room 214 again. Loved last time. Different room. Same hotel. Same pattern. I flagged the message and saved a screenshot. She came home that night humming. I might get promoted, she said, dropping her keys on the table. They're thinking of making me assistant manager. I'm just finally feeling valued. I stared at her for a beat. You should be, I said. People should always be paid what they're worth. She smiled, kissed my cheek, and I disappeared upstairs. I watched her go, and I didn't feel pity. I felt control. It was the middle of the next week when I thought I had him. I'd been watching Rachel's patterns with the precision of someone who worked in numbers for a living. Her schedule never deviated. Gym nights on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Always leaving just before 7. Always back around midnight. Always the same excuse. Late shifts, extra cleaning, an emergency call from a flustered client. I didn't question it out loud, but my curiosity had become more than passive. I began cross-referencing gym staff names listed on their website with social media profiles. I wasn't expecting anything obvious. Then I found Jordan. Trainer about mid-30s, gym photos tagged often, muscular but not showy. He posted a gym selfie at 10:45 p.m. on Friday with the caption, Late nights, tight glutes, no complaints. The comments were full of jokes and emojis. Except one, a reply from an anonymous profile, worth staying after hours for. It was vague, but the timestamp matched Rachel's usual Friday night stretch. I clicked the profile. Blank. No posts. No name. But the profile photo? A cropped image of a wine glass resting on what looked like a hotel desk. It was enough to push me toward action. That Friday, I told Rachel I was heading out for drinks with a few clients. She didn't ask who, didn't question anything. Just said, have fun, and packed her gym bag. I left 5 minutes after her. Circled the block, then parked 2 streets down and waited until her taillights disappeared toward the highway. The hotel was 15 minutes away. I knew the general layout now. Knew which rooms had balconies and which had curtains always drawn. I drove past it twice, then parked at the gas station across the street and waited. 40 minutes passed. I saw no sign of her car. Another 20, and I was starting to think I'd missed her entirely. Then a silver sedan pulled into the hotel lot. Rachel's car. I leaned forward in my seat, watching. She stepped out in workout clothes, but they looked too polished. Her hair was done, makeup subtle, but there. She didn't head inside immediately. She opened the trunk and pulled out a paper bag. The same red bag from the laundry room, but now with a fresh gold ribbon. Then another figure appeared from the side of the building, taller, athletic build. Jordan. He walked toward her, smiling. They exchanged words, but I couldn't hear them. He took the bag. She laughed. Then, he waved goodbye. He left. She went inside alone. I stared. It didn't make sense. Why meet, exchange a gift, and separate? Unless. I waited another half hour. No one else came. When Rachel finally left the hotel at 11:42 p.m., she was alone. No one with her. No sign of Marvin. No sign of anyone. She got in her car and drove off, not noticing the shadowed figure watching from the gas station lot. I followed her back toward town. Her car turned into the gym parking lot, empty at this hour, and sat there for a minute before she texted me. Just locking up. Want me to bring you something? I replied, no need. I'm headed home soon. When she walked through the door an hour later, I was already in bed, eyes closed. She whispered, you awake? I didn't move. She slipped under the sheets quietly, smelled faintly of hotel soap. I waited until her breathing leveled, then opened my eyes. Jordan was a dead end. That wasn't the affair. That wasn't Marvin. It was a handoff, nothing more. And now I knew for sure. She wasn't keeping her secret on her own. There was someone paying for her silence. And I had a new direction. After the false lead with Jordan, I took a step back. I'd burned too much mental energy chasing someone who didn't matter. Whatever she handed him in the hotel parking lot, it wasn't affection. It was business. A delivery. An errand. Maybe he was part of the cover-up, maybe not. But Rachel wasn't sneaking around for gym trainers. That wasn't her style. She was calculated, polished. She liked polish in return. And whatever name Marvin used when he texted her, he wasn't a kid. He was older. I could feel in the subtext of her conversations, in the fake stories about back injuries she was helping stretch out or driving to the chiropractor. No, Marvin had money, and men with money didn't show up in selfies. They stayed off-grid, quiet, comfortable, hidden. The key wasn't following her. It was listening differently. On Monday, she left early again. Claimed she had to stop by the gym before the new towels arrived. Some nonsense about a shipment mistake and scented detergent. She sounded annoyed, like she was dealing with something real. But there was no tension in her posture. She said it like someone who was free for the evening. I waited 10 minutes, then went to her closet. I wasn't looking for receipts this time. I was looking for routines. Tucked in a side pocket of her tote bag was a second phone. Not the burner. A newer one. Slightly cracked at the edge, still active. I turned it on. No password. 2 apps stood out. One was a calendar. The other, an encrypted chat client I'd seen once before in a fraud case. An app designed to erase messages after they're read. The calendar showed appointments, all labeled with neutral titles. Stretch 1, meeting, client F. All scheduled between 7:15 and 10:30 p.m. over the past 2 weeks. Every one of them happened on the nights she worked late at the gym. It was the contact that caught my eye, MG initials only. But the last appointment entry had a location attached. Tremont Hotel, room 212. I took a photo, checked the timestamp. 9 p.m. 2 nights ago. That was the night she came home humming to herself, said she got a smoothie and locked up the place early. I scrolled through the app, looking for more data, but most messages were gone. Just one remained, unread, likely missed. It said, leaving early this time. Envelope on the table. Same next week. The sender ID was a string of numbers. No photo. I tried to click it, but it timed out. I placed the phone back exactly where I found it, sat on the couch, and opened my own laptop. I pulled the hotel's name and scoured the site. Room pricing. VIP packages. Hidden floor layouts. Then I did something I hadn't done before. I ran a reverse search on recent guest bookings using a plugin from a tax fraud database we sometimes use in the office. It was technically a gray area, but I was no longer interested in following the rules. The name that appeared, Marvin Grant. I froze. He'd paid in cash. Booked the same room 3 Thursdays in a row. Grant. MG. I cross-referenced the name. Found a corporate registry. Former owner of a local dealership chain. Retired 3 years ago after a quiet buyout. Still listed on property records as owning 3 homes, one of which had a private elevator. I searched the name on social media. Nothing recent. But I found a woman tagged in an anniversary post from 3 years ago. Linda Grant. His wife. Still listed as married. Still active. Posting recipes and weekend flower arrangements. Still wearing a diamond the size of a coin. I clicked on her recent post. One of the hashtags, hashtag love still drives us, the irony stung like a slap. Rachel wasn't just cheating. She was playing a role, and she was being paid for it. That night, she came home in a different outfit than she left in. Gym bag ripped, she said before I could ask. Had to borrow a spare set from the back. You change at work now? Just tonight. Late meeting. Too many questions, babe, she said, brushing past. I didn't argue, but I didn't sleep either, because now I had a name, a hotel, a pattern, and I wasn't watching shadows anymore. I was holding the match. I spent the next day in silence. Not the cold, dramatic kind, the calculating kind. Rachel moved through the house like someone who believed the ground beneath her was still solid. She asked what I wanted for dinner, suggested we repaint the guest room. She talked about scheduling a couple's massage, said we both needed a reset. She said it like she cared, like she had no idea I was already planning her collapse. Her bag was packed again that night. Same tote, same 2 clean sneakers, same half-truths about the gym's new late-night circuit training trial. She kissed me with a smile that felt borrowed. Don't wait up, she said. If the client shows late, I might crash there to avoid the drive. Client? I asked. She blinked. Sorry, I meant coworker. I get my stories crossed when I'm tired. Right, I said. That happens. She turned fast and walked out before I could ask anything else. Which was fine, because I wasn't going to ask. I was going to follow. I waited exactly 12 minutes. Then I grabbed the bag I'd packed earlier. Nothing much, just a phone charger, my burner phone, a notepad, and a pair of gloves. The kind of gloves that don't leave smudges. I drove slow. Rachel wasn't subtle. She was predictable, and she didn't realize I had screenshots of her calendar. I knew the time. I knew the room. And now I was going to know the truth with my own eyes. The Tremont Hotel wasn't fancy, but it wasn't cheap either. It had that polished, middle-tier luxury feel, business travelers who wanted sleek bathrooms and discreet staff. I parked across the street, walked in through the back alley entrance near the dumpsters, and slipped past the vending machines. I already knew the layout. I'd been researching for days. Room 212 was on the corner, west side. Partial view of the highway. The hallway was quiet when I stepped out of the stairwell. No voices. No footsteps. But the light beneath the door of 212 glowed steady. Someone was inside. I pulled out the burner phone I'd been using and opened the fake profile I'd created on the site. I'd messaged Ella earlier under a different alias, saying I was in town, interested, and available. She hadn't replied, but she'd been active. I sent one more message, then waited. 10 minutes passed. Then I heard it. A muffled laugh. A man's voice. Not loud, just casual, followed by silence. Then footsteps. The light under the door moved. I leaned back against the wall across from the room, just enough in the shadow to stay unseen, just enough to listen. The door cracked open once. A hand reached out, dropped something into the hallway trash bin. A receipt? A wrapper? Then the door clicked shut again. I moved, fussed, pulled the trash bin aside, and grabbed the item. A small envelope. No writing on the front. Inside, cash. 50s and 100s. Crisp. I didn't count it. I didn't need to. It was payment. I took photos. Back and front. Slipped it back exactly as it was. Then I walked back to the stairs and exited the way I came in. I didn't need to see her face to know it was her. I didn't need to barge in and catch them red-handed. I had what I needed now. The appointment logs. The cash. The burner messages. The name. Marvin Grant. And tomorrow, I'd know even more. Because I wasn't just going to watch her destroy our life. I was going to hand her the match and let her think she lit it herself. The next morning, she came home wearing a sweatshirt I hadn't seen before. Too large. A man's fit. She claimed it was from the gym's Lost and Found. Said it was cold after her shift and her car's heater wasn't working. I didn't even respond. Just nodded and handed her coffee. She looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from pretending everything's fine. She took the cup with a grateful smile like we were still partners, like she hadn't spent the last night getting paid by someone who signed her off in envelopes. By noon, she was gone again, this time to meet a friend for lunch. I waited until she was out of the driveway before I opened the safe in our bedroom closet. We had a shared folder there, banking records, receipts, old documents. But tucked in the back was her red file from the last time she'd changed jobs. Inside were 2 pay stubs from the gym dated months ago. That part wasn't strange. What was strange was the total hours logged, 10 per week. Not the 25 she claimed. The pay was minimal, barely enough to justify gas. And that's when I realized she was using the gym as a cover. It gave her just enough legitimacy to explain her schedule, her gym clothes, the late-night stories. But it didn't account for the rest. I took the burner phone from my desk drawer and opened the encrypted app she'd used. Her contact with MG had gone silent since the last transaction, but I had already backed up the message. Same time next week. Room 214. No need for the blue dress. I didn't reply, but I did something else. I called a client of mine, a PI I'd helped once during a messy alimony case. I told him I needed a discreet favor. Someone tailed for 48 hours. No confrontation, just photos, timestamps, verification. He didn't ask questions. Said he'd have a tracker placed and visual confirmation before the week was up. 2 days later, he called. She met a man at the Tremont again. Same guy, mid-60s. But where's designer everything? Drove a Lexus. They spent exactly 2 hours in room 214. She left with an envelope in hand. I swallowed hard. Got a photo. Sending now. It buzzed through 10 seconds later. There she was, stepping out of the hotel, smiling faintly, phone in hand. Hair tied up, hoodie loose, that same red tote slung over her shoulder. Behind her in the doorway, a tall man adjusting his cufflinks. The image wasn't high-res, but I knew him. Marvin Grant, the man who once owned 6 car dealerships in the Tri-County area. The man still legally married to Linda Grant. I thanked the PI, paid him instantly, and closed my phone. The plan was clearer than ever now. I wasn't going to confront Rachel. I was going to let someone else do it. I spent that evening compiling every screenshot, photo, and chat log into a neatly organized folder labeled Ella Transactions. I converted the text messages to PDF, matched timestamps with hotel room bookings, attached bank withdrawals, and gym pay stubs for contrast. The whole thing painted a picture she couldn't deny, and one someone else wouldn't forgive. I printed it, packaged it in a plain envelope, wrote one name on the front in blue ink, Linda Grant, and the next morning I delivered it to the mailbox of her home myself. No return address, no explanation, just the truth, wrapped in silence. When Rachel returned that night, she was light on her feet again. "Want to do Thai tomorrow?" she asked casually. "Haven't had in a while." I smiled. "Sure, let's do it." She leaned down, kissed my cheek. "You're the best." I watched her walk upstairs, humming to herself, unaware that her world had already started cracking. Because when you sell lies for envelopes of cash, eventually someone pays a different kind of price. And tomorrow, Marvin would get the bill. The morning after I mailed the package to Linda Grant, I woke up before the sun. Rachel was still asleep beside me, tangled in the sheets like a woman who had nothing to hide. She breathed evenly, peacefully. She had no idea that the ground under her feet had shifted, that the facade she clung to had already begun to peel. I got up, made coffee, and stared at the front window for a long time, watching as the street came alive. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't anxious. I was still. By noon, I knew Linda had received the envelope. A friend of mine who lived a few houses down from her saw her pacing in the driveway, envelope clutched in hand, phone to her ear, lips tight. A few hours later, Marvin's Lexus pulled into the driveway. He stayed inside the car for several minutes. Then the front door opened. Linda stood there, arms folded. She didn't let him in. The yelling wasn't loud, but the silence after it was deafening. The next day, Marvin moved out. I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. I simply waited. Rachel came home that evening with a strange energy. Nervous. Edgy. She asked if we could cancel dinner plans. Said something about feeling off, maybe catching a cold. "You okay?" I asked. She forced a smile. "Yeah, just tired." I nodded. "You know you can tell me anything, right?" Her smile didn't quite hold. "Of course." She went to bed early that night. I stayed up late, finalizing phase 2. I've been tracking Marvin's movements for a while, financially at least. His recent pattern of large cash withdrawals, under-the-table hotel payments, and secret phone expenses didn't line up with the clean-cut public image he used to maintain. So I documented everything. I compiled a financial timeline of Marvin's sugar arrangement, wrapped with his full name, addresses, and businesses. I even flagged a few discrepancies in his taxes from the dealership sale. Nothing criminal on its own, but paired with an active infidelity scandal during a divorce. Devastating. I uploaded the files to a private, anonymous Dropbox link and sent it to a local gossip blog that had made headlines for outing a city council member's affair last year. No email signature, no IP trail, just the link and a one-line message. If you think the car business is dirty, wait until you read this. The post went live 2 days later. Headline: Dealer of Secrets? Retired auto giant caught in sugar scandal. Hotel logs, leaked texts, and the envelope that broke his marriage. Within hours, it was trending locally. Within a day, it hit statewide forums. Photos of Marvin exiting the Tremont were everywhere. So were screenshots of Ella's chat logs. Blurred names, but the details were enough for anyone in the know to connect the dots. Comments exploded. Marvin became a punchline. One commenter dubbed him Coupon Casanova. Another joked, guess he couldn't drive stick after all. Rachel was oddly quiet that day. She barely spoke. I watched her scroll through her phone over and over, jaw tight. That evening, I caught her standing in the garage, staring at her red tote bag like it had betrayed her. "You okay?" I asked from the doorway. She jumped. "Yeah, just long day. Something happened." She shook her head. "Just tired of people." I didn't press. I didn't need to, because by then, I'd already spoken to Marvin's accountant, a former co-worker, a man who still owed me a favor. I told him Marvin's soon-to-be ex-wife might need help moving her assets quietly before the court date. I didn't name names, just hinted at opportunity. He said he'd handle it, and he did. I got a thank you card 3 days later. Inside was a check, a consulting bonus worded loosely. Enough to start something new. That night, I changed the locks. I packed Rachel's things into 3 boxes. Her clothes, her files, the tote bag, and I wrote a note. Just one line. "You want a sugar life. Hope you're ready for the crash." I left it taped to the front door. Then I opened a new folder on my computer. Registered an LLC. Clean cuts accounting. Simple, precise, honest. Everything she wasn't. She showed up 3 days after the locks were changed. I was in the office working on client prep for the new consulting firm when the doorbell rang. I knew it was her before I even looked through the peephole. There was a rhythm to her knock, urgent but rehearsed, like someone who still believed she had a right to be let in. I opened the door without a word and just stood there. She looked thinner somehow, not in body, but in presence. Hair messy, eyes ringed with exhaustion, tote bag slung over her shoulder like it weighed more than it ever had. "Greg," she breathed, "can we talk?" I didn't move. "You read the note." Her lips parted, then shut again. She nodded once. I didn't think you knew." "No," I said calmly. "You didn't think I could know?" "Different thing." She stepped closer. "Please, just give me a chance to explain. Not everything was what it looked like." "Then why didn't you tell me when you had the chance?" I asked. "Every night, you came home with hotel soap in your hair. Every time you said, 'long night,' while counting $100 bills in your purse." "It wasn't like that," she said, voice trembling. "I wasn't trying to hurt you. It was, things were hard. You were working late. I felt invisible. Histoire de hair. So you became someone else? I just needed to feel seen, valued. It started as a game, Greg. Just messages. But Marvin offered money. I thought if I took it, we could catch up on bills, maybe even surprise you with a vacation." I laughed once, sharp. "You think the problem is money?" Her eyes welled. "No, I know the problem is me. I know I broke something. But I'm here now. I'm owning it. You're here because the life you built behind my back fell apart. Not because you're sorry." "I am sorry," she snapped, then caught herself. Softer, she added, "I know I don't deserve anything, but I still love you." "No," I said, stepping out and closing the door behind me. "You love what I gave you. Security, stability, a home that didn't ask for lies." "I miss us," she whispered. "There is no us, Rachel. You threw that away when you chose strangers over honesty." She looked down. "Where am I supposed to go?" I pointed to the boxes she hadn't touched. "You already packed." She winced. "You're really not going to give me a second chance?" "I gave you dozens. Every night, I didn't ask where you really were. Every time I chose to trust you despite the signs. That was mercy. This is clarity." She reached out, but I stepped back. "Don't," I said. Her arm dropped. Tears streamed now, heavy, real, but I didn't move. I let her stand there in the quiet, face cracked wide open by consequences she thought she could sidestep. I loved you, she choked. I love you too, I said flatly, until I realized I didn't recognize who I was loving anymore. She didn't respond, just stood there for a long time. Eventually, she walked to the curb, dropped the tote bag on top of one box, and sat down. I watched through the window as she scrolled through her phone, made a call, ended it, then tried again. No one was coming for her. That was the truth she hadn't prepared for. By sunset, she was gone. Box is still there, but the weight of her was finally off my chest, and for the first time in months, I could breathe. Thank you for listening to the end. I hope you enjoyed it very much. Don't forget to give a like and tell us in the comments what you would do in such a situation.